Hello and welcome to my makeup channel. As many of you know, I have been very much focused on consumerism as a topic on my channel. I love talking about it, and I also have recently started a series that is called somewhere along the lines of the ugliness of the beauty industry. I don't know if that will be the title or if that will be like a subplot. I have no idea what I'm talking about right now, but regardless, I'm doing a series on my channel just basically talking about the not so good parts of this industry. Not that they overwhelm the good parts, but I thought that it might be a good idea to highlight them, and specifically I want to talk about whether or not beauty companies, beauty brands out there are trying to manipulate us with their attitudes towards servicing us during this global pandemic. Full disclosure, before I start this video, I'm not trying to make this an attempt to derail or bash on brands who are just trying to make a living, brands who are trying to basically grow their business in any time, but I will say that there has been, I think, a direct correlation between world events and brands' attitude towards their consumers. There has been a specific increase in sales, promotions, and whether or not this is ethically sound is something that I want to debate in this video. Like many others around the globe, I myself am currently without a steady paycheck. Now, I will not sit here and pretend that my situation is the worst, because it is not by far. I'm lucky enough to be at home for the time being, but as a result of not having a steady income and still trying to remain financially sound, I am put into the position of simply not being able to spend money on certain non-essential items, and makeup is amongst one of those items, of course. I will say this though, I see no problem in myself buying like a small thing if I feel like it, but ever since this started, I have not been buying anything, and I don't see myself buying any sort of makeup items as we move forward, because I don't necessarily think it'll be a wise financial decision for me personally. So in this time, we are hit with so many sales and promotions and temptations from influencers and beauty brands alike, trying to get us to spend money on their products or use their links. And I have a few opinions about it. I think at some point when this all first started, I was kind of like very, I would say, irritated by companies who were so obviously trying to take advantage of the situation and trying to tempt their consumers by basically putting so many sales on so many of their items. Even now, as I'm speaking, there are so many brands that are doing site-wide sales on all of their products. Brands that you typically don't see go on sale that often, but then again, you have brands that go on sale all the time and they're still doing sales. But I'm talking about the brands that usually wouldn't go on sale, but they mysteriously are putting so many of their products at a discount. It's a pretty good discount. A lot of brands are doing 50% off, 20% off, 30% off, and considering the fact that so many of these brands price their items at a more like high-end price point, it's a pretty good discount. However, we're getting these discounts at a time where it is not necessarily financially advisable for us to go out and spend money on makeup. Now, if you're somebody who is currently in a very good financial state and you're not necessarily worried about your next paycheck, or if you have enough money in the bank and you're not necessarily feeling any need to restrict yourself that much when it comes to buying makeup, if at all, that's totally fine. Unfortunately, I'm not in that situation. Neither are millions of other people around the world. So I'm making this video in an attempt to sort of like ally myself with those who are in the same boat as me. If you are somebody who is able to buy whatever you want at this time, I'm so glad for you, I'm so happy for you, but at the same time, I hope that you realize that this is a form of privilege. Now more than ever, the disparity between social classes is being highlighted. As a result, I look at influencers or beauty brands that are promoting these deals and promoting this consumerism even during this trying time, and I can't help but feel a sense of dissatisfaction, jealousy even, and just, I would say, a little bit of disapproval as well, because part of me is like, okay, so they're trying to market these items and these services to us at a time of great need, when the last thing we should be spending our money on is anything in the cosmetic industry. But at the same time, they're bound to be marketing this towards people who can actually afford to get these items. But the question still stands, if a certain percentage of your customer base is unable or shouldn't be spending money on a certain product, then why are you still marketing that product? Of course, we have to talk about business. Business is essential for growth. Growth is essential for business, and of course these companies are very interested in doing so, and arguably the consumer is supposed to make the decision as to whether or not they should buy an item. But morally, is it right to have so much consumerism shoved down our throats at a time like this? Especially when it comes to influencers, you have so many people still pushing affiliate links, still pushing their codes, which is fine because of course everybody needs to make money, and if you're looking for a specific item, it's good to find a deal. But then at the same time, if you're a full-time influencer and you're already making a lot of money, is it right to be pushing consumerism? And am I being a little bit of a Debbie Downer by highlighting this issue when really it's all up to all of us to have our own levels of self-control, and clearly we should all be responsible for the kind of impulse decisions we may or may not make, impulse buying being a large part of it. I have definitely been feeling a strong sense of FOMO lately because I've been looking at all these sales, I've been looking at all these brands. These brands that I love so much are already marking down items that I've wanted to get for a long time but simply not bought because they weren't on sale. So yes, of course I'm feeling FOMO, and admittedly I have caught myself several times just going on a brand's website and trying to calculate just how much I'll be paying for an item if it's marked down at 30% or 20% or whatever the percentage might be. So I kind of feel like, okay, yeah, I kind of want to buy something, but then of course I have to catch myself and I have to be like, you know what? You don't have the financial ability to buy that item right now. It's not a good decision if you go ahead and make that purchase because really you don't need the item as much as you need to be financially secure during this time. So personally, I do wish that brands and influencers alike would be a little bit more in tune with the troubles and the hardships that are being highlighted at the moment. But then at the same time, I know that this is not a possibility. So therefore, I do think that this is like an ugly underbelly of the industry right now, that we are so driven by consumerism that even at this time of extreme difficulty, we are somehow all tied together by this sense of greed that we all feel. Some of us more than others, but I do feel like this time sort of highlights this animalistic instinct that so many of us have to grow and to expand and to become more wealthy, possibly and quite literally on the backs of others. But then since we've already been doing that, but then you have to wonder, even though these issues are being brought to the forefront and highlighted right now during this time of incredible need, there are still these similar issues still do exist even when things are seemingly normal, because people are still always going to be less fortunate than others. We're still going to have the elite. We're still going to have people who are more privileged than us. We're still going to be more privileged than other people, than people who are in even more desperate situations than ourselves. So again, it's good to have that level of self-control. But then again, I'm wondering about the person who is maybe sitting at home or maybe going to work every single day, and they must be feeling so upset and so alone and so afraid. What if they're using impulse buying or just the purchasing of makeup and beauty products as a way to cope with this incessant feeling of loneliness, despair, and hopelessness? And what if that is detrimental to them? Are they responsible for their own financial well-being? Or are the brands and influencers and people who push them to make that purchase in part or completely responsible for that person's financial devastation? Clearly, I don't think that either party is entirely at fault, but then at the same time, it kind of compels me to think about the consequences of our own seemingly innocent actions, the consequences of our own choices that we make to survive. Is there a way to survive and care for yourself and the people in your circle, if not by trotting on the backs of others, even when things are perfectly fine? I don't think any one of us is completely innocent of not stepping on the backs of others when it comes to living our daily life. By purchasing through so many retailers and companies, we are contributing to a growing issue of mistreatment and terrible workplace practices, even when things are perfectly fine. So yes, I guess I could say that brands are benefiting from our suffering during this time, but at the same time, aren't we benefiting from the suffering of others? So does that make me a hypocrite for talking about beauty brands benefiting from my suffering when I have been benefiting from other people's suffering this entire time? It's kind of a multifaceted issue, so there's really no clear answer to whether or not this is right or wrong, whether or not brands should be held accountable for this or that. But yes, that's all I have to say for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it a little bit thought-provoking and entertaining. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I will see you next time. Bye.